So hi everyone, I hope you all are doing good. In the previous video we have seen that what is a load balancer and how a load balancer works. In this video we have to understand that how a load balancer decides that how it has to distribute the request among the servers. So there are a couple of techniques exist. So for each technique we will get a video, okay, where I'll make a video for each technique. So today let's understand the very first technique, that is a round robin technique. Okay, so first let's talk about round robin. So the very first question is, what is round robin? So round robin is basically a technique, or we can say a algorithm, which decides that how to distribute the upcoming incoming request, how to distribute the incoming request from the client and distribute those requests among the servers. Let's say we have a client and client initiate a request. So load, how this load balancer will going to decide that this request should pass on to which server. So to decide the to decide that how we are going to distribute the incoming request to the servers, for that we have various techniques. This is round robin. So round robin is basically a load balancing technique which decide how to distribute the data among the request, and it is a static technique. By static I mean that in this technique the round robin do not consider the computational power of each server. It basically means, by static I mean that round robin consider all of the servers as similar, like all of the three server has same computational power, same CPU cores. But in a real world case, it might not happen that all of the server that are using have the same computation power, have the same capacity. Some may vary. So in round robin it consider as a static. Static means all of three have same computational power, and round robin do not consider the computational power of the each server. It only works on the predefined rules. It means whatever rules are defined in round robin will going to follow those rules to distribute the data, to distribute the request among the servers, and do not consider the computational power of these servers. So that's what I mean by static. Okay, so I hope you understood the point that a round robin is a load balancing technique to decide how the data should be distributed among the servers, and considering that all of the servers that you are using in this technique have same computational powers, and round robin will distribute the data among the servers by using the predefined rules. Now we have understood what part. Now let's understand how it works. So let's consider this setup itself, that we have a client, we can have a various clients, we have a single load balancer, and let's say we are using horizontal scaling, so we have three servers, right? Now round robin, what how round robin is going to distribute the data? Let's say we have three requests, R1, R2, R3. So how it going to work? Let's say we have a request 1, request 2, request 3, request 4, request 5, request 6. Let's say different clients initiates different requests, and we have right now 6 requests. So how round robin will distribute the request? So the very first request will pass on to the first server, server A. Second request will pass on to the server B, and third request will pass on to the server C. Okay, so the very first 3 requests passes on to the 3 servers. Okay, now what round robin consider, there is a pointer also, a next pointer. What does next pointer does? Next pointer keeps the track of the just next server. It means if the request is passes on to the server A, the next pointer will point to this server. If the request is passed on to the server B, the next pointer will move to the server C. Okay, so in round robin we have a pointer which point to the next server on which now the load balancer have to distribute, have to pass on the request. Also, load balancer keep the track of available servers. What do we mean by available servers? By available server, we mean that how many servers we are using in our setup. So load balancer keep the track of it. So right now in our setup we have three servers: server 1, server 2, server 3. That's how load balancer know ki okay, we have three servers, and if we are using round robin, so load balancer, how load balancer will going to distribute the data? In starting, the next pointer is here. If the next pointer is here, so the request will pass on to the server 1. Once the server 1 gets the request, the pointer will move to server 2. The server 2 will get the request, then the next pointer will move to the third server, and the third server get the request. Up, the thing is, when the last request hits the when the request hits the last server, now how the next request will pass on to which server? Now let's say we have a request 4th, and the request 3rd is already hit to last server. Now the request 4 will again pass on to the server 1, so request 4, then request 5 will to this server, and request 6 to this server. So here round robin creates a cycle. Whenever the request hits the last server, the next pointer will again move to the first server. As we discussed, there will be a next pointer which keep the track of the just next server, where you have to now pass the request. So once the request hit the last server, the next pointer will move to the very first server, so that this process repeats again and again and again. Okay, so that's the how part. It means how the round robin distributes the data by creating a whole round robin cycle. Request 1 to request server 1, request 2 to server 2, request 3 to server 3, and whenever the last server gets the request, the next pointer will move to the very first server again by creating a cycle. So I hope you understood this point. This is the whole concept of round robin. Round robin is basically used to distribute the data among distribute the data among the servers. Also used in DNS, also used in CPU, operating system wale concept mein it is also used. Okay, we'll discuss that in any other video. But till now, I hope you understood what is round robin and how it works. See, whenever we learn any concept, not just in system design, that concept must have advantages and disadvantages. So if you understand the how part and what part, now it's time to move on to the next part, that is advantages and disadvantages of round robin, because it is very important to decide whether this technique will be suitable for my system design or not. Okay, so now let's move to the advantages part and the disadvantages part. Okay, so now moving on to the advantages of using round robin technique. So the very first advantage is it is like the simplest technique or the algorithm to apply or to configure in load balancer, right? So this is very simplest. Like, why simple? Because you don't need to do the complex calculation, you don't need to monitor the request or monitor the servers. As discussed, it is a static algorithm, so you don't need to check the computation of the server. So that's its first advantage, that it is the simplest algorithm that you can apply or configure in your system, in your load balancer. Now the very next as the advantages we are talking about, so first it is simple to implement. Okay, so the second is the that in round robin, as it does not care about the monitoring, it does not care about the computational power of the servers, so hence it does not it does not use much of the computations of the server. Next is the fair distribution. Why fair distribution? Fair distribution means that in round robin, every server get the opportunity to have the have the request. In the round robin, there is no single server which does not get a request. a server can be without request when the servers complete all resolve all the request, but ऐसा कभी नहीं होगा that a server in round robin technique will not get the request. Round robin provide equal opportunity to the server to get the request. Okay, so also as we understood that it provide equal opportunity, it is simple to implement, it does not care about the computational power of the server before distributing the load to the servers. On the other hand, it has disadvantages as well, so that you can think of should you use this algorithm or this technique to configure in your load balancer or not. So there might be a lot of disadvantages, that as we know that it does not care about the server computational power, and it consider each server as a same computational power, but in real world it does not necessary that you have all the server with same computational power. Some can be lesser in computational power rather than others. So in that case, if let's say this server A has less computational power than server B, so it might can happen that server A have a lots of requests pending, and server B have only let's say 2 requests. So in that case, if this server A has less computational power, so it might can happen that it resolve the request, it resolved the request takes some times. Okay, it delay in resolving the request. So this is the disadvantages, because it does not care about the computational power of the computational power of the servers, because it consider that all the servers have the same computational power, which might maybe not happen in the real world case, because it can happen that our server is might more powerful than other servers. Also, there is an uneven distribution of load. Why? Because it can happen that a server A, let's say the very first request on server A is to download a movie, and downloading a movie takes time, and the server second get a request of just cropping an image, which is a small task, can be resolved faster. So, and third get a request, and let's say still server A, the first request is still not resolved, and server A again get a next request. So in that case, these servers can have an uneven distribution of load, because the round robin does not care about the active connection. By active connection I mean कि it does not care कि अभी एक single server पे how many requests are there. It does not even check कि if let's say if this server has 6 requests and this has only 3, so it is a good practice to pass on these 3 requests to the server. But no, this cannot happen, because round robin does not care about the active connections, right? And it is not suitable for dynamic environment. What do I mean by dynamic environment? By dynamic environment I mean when we want to monitor the server, we want to check the computational power, we want to check the health of our servers. In that case, round robin is not good, because round robin does not care about all these things. What it cares about is to distribute the load and give each server the opportunity to have the incoming request. Also, there is a challenge that can happen is also we can have a challenge in this, that is session persistent challenge. By session persistent challenge I mean that let's say our server A creates an account, let's say a user creates a request to create register, and it passes on to the server A, and now the browser stores some session data, and let's say after let's say now user want to log in. Okay, user create a login request, and now this login request should pass to the server 1, because this server has the session data, but instead this request pass on to the server 2, and in that case server 2 can't log in the user, because it does not have the session data of the user. So in round robin this is a challenge, session persistent challenge, because session is stored in a particular server, and it can happen that a client request passes on to the server C, and the session of the user stored in session B. So in that case, it is an issue. So this is also a challenge. Okay, so I hope you understood the point. What is round robin, how round robin works, what are the advantages and disadvantages. I hope you like this video and got a little knowledge about round robin technique. So we will learn, as I mentioned, that there are couples of load distributing techniques. So we will see the next technique in the next video. Each technique will have will be explained in a video, single video. So let's, I hope you understood the concept. Thank you. Bye bye.